Oh, interesting stuff indeed over there. From the world of technology to the world of the law, it's time for our weekly legal segment we call So Now What? And of course, we are addressing the issue at hand, which is, of course, the spread of the coronavirus all around the world. And we want to know what your legal rights and recourses are when it comes to that. Our friend in all things law, Eitan Stern from Legalese, joins us to answer that very question. Yeah, you never thought that corona had a legal side to it? Well, it does. Good to have you, sir.
Good to be here. I wish we were talking about something a little more pleasant.
Right.
But I suppose it's important. We've got to talk about it.
Yeah. 2 weeks ago, actually, we were speaking about it, and it hasn't hit South Africa yet.
Yeah.
Last week, obviously, the first confirmed case in Hilton, KZN.
Yeah.
What is the legal rights with regards to the government? So should this outbreak spread like wildfire, is there a government-level disaster management protocol that will have to take place should this spread?
100%. So, look, so I think corona is important to talk about, but I also think it's important not to panic too much. So everything we do in talking about this, and certainly in this conversation, should be based around, you know, giving facts and not blowing things out of proportion. So we've got to measure ourselves. So the government at all times has a risk protocol. There's the Risk Management Act, and it's the government's duty to have a procedure to put into place if there's any sort of an emergency or pandemic or disaster. And that can be disease, it can be local, it can be national, it could be people getting hurt. And the government has to have procedures to put into play. The government says that they have been planning the procedures for what happens if there's a widespread pandemic. And so if that does happen, they'll let us know what they're going to be doing to curtail the virus. Yeah. But it is up to them to have a procedure in place, and they say they are doing it. So we'll wait and see, but the hope is that the pandemic doesn't spread too far.
Yeah, and to their credit, we have been receiving regular updates
for sure
from the Minister of Health. So let's talk about the employer-employee relationship. And if you now, for instance, might know of a confirmed case in your area, in your office, in your place of employment, what obligation does your employer have towards you as an employee?
Okay. So it's a great question, and one that's very relevant for corona and in all instances. It's an employer's duty to make sure that the workplace is kept safe for employees. So if you've got, you know, any kind of dangers in the workplace, it's an employer's job to make sure that you're working in a safe environment, that you're not going to get hurt. So if someone has corona or contagious virus or any contagious virus in the workplace, it's the employer's duty to try to quarantine that person and to keep the rest of the employees safe.
With regards to parent-child and the schooling the system, though, because as a parent, I'm sure if anyone was confirmed or just had the slight symptoms at a creche, Phoenix creche, should a parent keep the child at home to, like, you know, just keep them away from a child? Or
sure.
What is that?
Okay, so again, this is a really, really important question, and one which is this balancing between panic and safety. So schools have a duty to keep children safe. It's one of their requirements. If a school knows of someone or suspects someone has a virus in their school, then it's going to be up to that school to make sure that they're quarantined. That being said, a parent does not have a right to just take their child out of school. Parents have to, well, on a long-term basis, it's illegal. Your child has to go to school if they're under 15 years old. They have to be in school. So parents can't just take their kids out of school because they're not safe, don't feel safe. The Department of Education and the schools are monitoring this, and they will let you, if there are dangers, their obligation is to keep children safe, and they'll put a protocol in place of whether they're going to close the school down or not. Yeah. And in some schools around the world, they have been doing that. In South Africa, they haven't yet, because we only have, I think it's 7 cases now of coronavirus. We're not at panic levels just yet. We hope it doesn't get there, but until then, you know, you have to keep your kids in school.
Maybe
the best thing that, sorry, just to add, the best thing that parents can do, and this is one that people keep talking about, is teach the kids to wash hands, teach about personal hygiene, but that's really the best thing you can do, that you don't need to start pulling your kids from school just yet.
Yeah. Interesting you're saying, and we were just speaking about that, like washing the hands and that, but like for the parents though, how would that affect them? Because like you obviously not sending your child to school to keep them in quarantine. Can you then also just stay at home from work? Would that be a...
Okay, so the work thing's interesting. So the answer is, well, no, I guess. You can't just stay home from work because you feel there's something unsafe. That being said, we are to some extent in unprecedented times. Yes. And there's, you know, this is not, I mean, hopefully it's not the new normal, but this is not a normal situation. So everyone's kind of figuring out out what to do. And a lot of companies, specifically tech companies around the world, are trying to encourage people to work from home and use the resources like video chat in order to run the businesses, and it works quite well. But that's going to be up to your employer to decide how they want to manage their company, up until the point that there is some sort of a risk in the workplace, in which case the employer has to notify disaster risk management, and is going to have to keep people in the workplace safe.
All right. Well, we're going to continue this conversation with Eitan Stern very shortly. And, of course, as you can see on your screens as well, the National Institute of Communicable Diseases hotline, 0800 029 999, a number to keep on hand if you're looking to find out more information.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show on this Wednesday morning. Eitan Stern still joining us right now for So What Now, our weekly legal segment where we discuss the more unconventional side of the law. And how much more of an unconventional time is it right now where coronavirus is making world news and, of course, its effects on multiple industries. But what about you personally? How does it touch on your life? And we were talking about it right now during the ad break about the fact that you were supposed to be traveling to Switzerland next week.
Yes.
And you've had to cancel that you were going to go to a conference.
Yes. So in Europe, they're cancelling. Lots of events are being cancelled. So the event I was supposed to be going to was cancelled, which leaves me with a plane ticket, which I can't use.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So what then happens in a situation like that? Companies like airlines, hotels, things like that. Are you as an individual then allowed to claim your money back from them legally to say, well, this is something that I didn't have any control over and I've had to cancel, and because I'm not going anymore, I'm not just going to be visiting all willy-nilly because there's no more conference. Give me back my money.
So it's a great question, and one which has a conventional and an unconventional answer. In normal circumstances, if you cancel something in South Africa, you've got the Consumer Protection Act to protect you. So you've got a cancellation procedure. You've given 7 days to cancel and then another 30 days to cancel. So there's procedures to go into play. That's the one thing to do, is check the Consumer Protection Act if you've booked into a hotel or booked a flight. The other thing is you've got to check the terms and conditions of that particular airline or that hotel. So hotels will have cancellation policies. The non-conventional part of the answer is we are in kind of an unprecedented situation. So that the hotels and airlines are deciding on what to do in this. So in my example, I booked with Emirates. Emirates have removed the cancellation fee, or the change fee if you want to change your ticket. They normally charge you a fee to change. They said, listen, we understand people are going to be changing, so they've taken that away. Airbnb is another example. They've sent out an email to say that you can now, if hosts or visitors are allowed to cancel bookings without any penalties. So the companies that are in the tourism or travel industry are now coming to the party and deciding what to do in this kind of an unprecedented situation. So the answer is check the Consumer Protection Act, check the terms, and communicate with whoever it is that you've booked with.
Yeah. Let's take it back to the employee now.
Sure.
For instance, if I feel like I'm getting sick, do I self-quarantine myself for 2 weeks? I obviously have to report it to my employer.
Sorry, I can't come into work
for
2 weeks.
You're giving me the shivers.
Would this then account as sick leave, annual leave? How would this affect?
Okay, so again, a great question, and to some extent, kind of unprecedented. So if we think about it, the Basic Conditions of Employment Act has a sick leave procedure, and you get a certain amount of sick leave in every cycle to take. The question, so if you are sick, you can take the sick leave. If you are very sick, there's other procedures which come into play about whether you are able to continue at your job and whether you are not. The question you're asking, though, is what happens if you think you're sick and you have to take off leave because you might have this virus, because there's a 2-week incubation period for this virus. The answer is you need to communicate with your employer. It should be in the employer's best interest to make a plan with you, because the employer needs to keep the rest of the staff safe and not ill. So what the hope would be that the employer makes a procedure for you to be able to work from home. If they don't, then I guess in theory you could take your leave in order to, if the employer disagrees with you and doesn't want you to quarantine yourself, then you could take your leave in order to quarantine yourself, and to some extent you might be able to take unpaid leave. But the real hope is that your employer needs to fulfill their duty of keeping the office safe. And if you are able to work and can quarantine yourself, then the employer should come to the party. But it's a difficult situation and one without a lot of precedent. And the real hope is that people don't panic without reason to panic, so we're not put into these kind of extreme situations.
Yeah, and of course, when you think about it, an outbreak of this nature can cause mass hysteria. It can cause a lot of difficulty within the community. And in fact, it was reported that a man at Tygerberg Hospital said that he had the virus just so that he could skip the queue.
Yeah.
A very, very serious thing to say, and that could start, like I said, mass hysteria and panic and can get people hurt.
Yes.
So what could happen if you are found to be misreporting or misrepresenting the fact that you maybe have the coronavirus or that someone else might have it?
Yeah. Okay, so great question and really important, and really plays into this fear-mongering thing that we're talking about. Fear-mongering and causing panic does cause damage. And if you are causing damage to someone else or an institution because of something which isn't true or intentionally, then yes, you can be liable for it. You could be liable for a criminal conviction if there was a crime that's being committed. And if you cause some damage to someone's business or property because of it, you could be liable for a civil claim. So it is really, really important to not cry wolf, to not mess around with this thing, to not incite panic and intentionally try harm other people or their businesses. Everyone's got to keep cool, and everyone's got to just be, you know, a good civil citizen around this and not cause panic. And if you do, you really could have damages or a criminal claim against you.
Yeah. Some great insights there from Eitan Stern. Thank you very much.
Only a pleasure.
Much appreciated, and we hope that also was enlightening to you. Do share your thoughts with us on social media. Of course, every hashtag Expresso show. And one more time, a very important number for you to keep on hand. Perhaps you might want to save it as one of your quick access numbers. The National Institute of Communicable Diseases hotline, 0800 029 999.